What's up, you guys? It's Julian. Today we're going to be talking about how to do TDJ style trance, the more melodic, summery kind of vibe. To go along with this video, you can grab this full template on the top of the description on my website. Definitely make sure to go grab that. It's the best thing you can do right now to make better tracks today. Thanks for the support, everybody, and let's get going. Alright, so we start up here. We're at 148 BPM, and we got our drums. So, starts with this kick. Just a nice, hard, punchy kick. Not really any processing, right? I think with this type of stuff, it's really just getting the kick right up on top of the mix. Like, when I was hearing her tracks, it's more about sample selection than it is really, like, any particular type of processing. Then we got our hi-hats. So, you can see we got this main one. It's 2 layers. It's this. And then this sort of, like, stereo wide layer, and then you put them together. Right, and you can hear it just gives it a little bit more stereo image than that one on its own. We got this little hi-hat. Just jumping around it. I've got this clap. This one's cool. I processed it quite a bit with the simpler. I just kind of faded it out a little bit. It was a lot longer. Right, and then I also got this pitched up. I think that's important. It kind of brings us more into the high end, right? Like, without that, right, it makes it a bit tighter and punchier. And then we have this little sort of break beat. So here's what this sounds like on its own. And then I've got a bit of auto pan side chaining it and a high pass filter. It just gives you that last sort of rush of high end over top of the drums. And then we move down to our synths. The first one here is this arp. So this might seem complicated. If you look at the actual chord progression of the track, it's basically doing that, right? It's the chord progression that the bass is playing. It's this. So the 5th of that first note. And then we're changing the melody note up top. So it's like there's 3 parts. Make it complex, but it's actually really simple what's happening, because it's just, right? Right, so it seems really complicated, but it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. As far as the sound goes on this one, it's made with analog. I've got 2 sine waves here. You can see one of them has this little pitch envelope going up. So it kind of gives it a bit more of like a dreamy feel. I've got the amp envelope set like that. I've got some echo and reverb as well. I think the ping pong setting is important with this. Kind of spreads it out a bit. High pass filter. And then a side chain. But we're side chaining just to the high end of the kick. So if you look at this, it's like this high pass here and then. So you get a tighter side chain. So then we got our classic trance guitar. Notes-wise, what's going on here is we're in the key of B minor. It's basically some pretty basic voices inside of that scale. I think what really makes it sound is more so having like that call and response where it's the low notes. Right, and then the high notes. Now, for this sound, the way you make these is you basically start with one of these kind of synth guitars. Like this is Ableton's Tension. Which on its own isn't sounding too realistic, but then you put it through an amp and a cabinet simulation. Right, and it kind of makes it a bit warmer, a bit more realistic, and then it's going to be super washed out. I think these need to be really dreamy. So I got a lot of, it's like that really heavy delay and reverb. High pass filter. And then we're side chaining. And I also think something you can see is this is not being side chained that much. So if you compare it with the ARP with the heavier side chain, you can hear it sits a bit louder in the mix. So definitely like playing with the side chain amounts can really help your mixing just to get things on different levels based on just how side chain they are. Then we got these stabs. Now, MIDI-wise, it might seem complicated. It's basically 3 melodies. We got our chord progression. We got this melody. And then we got this melody. Right? So it's like those 3 melodies happening at once basically create the plucks that you hear. A chord progression, a kind of simple melody in the middle, and then kind of like the main heavy one. So these can seem complicated, but it's not that hard to write if you break it down like that, right? Now for the sound, this is a pretty standard trance pluck. We got a saw wave, and then we got this white noise here. A low pass filter, which is pretty high, but then there's also an envelope on it. Where it can be very dynamic, right? Like this can really build through the track this way. So we got that. Bit of unison, some reverb as well. I don't like to use delay on these kind of plucks as much because I think it can get in the way of the rhythm. Whereas the reverb just sort of sits with it nicely and gives it the space. High pass filter, and then we're side chaining again with that sort of like high pass side chain. Then we have our bass line. So what's going on here is this is playing that same low chord progression that you saw on the lead. What's going on is it's basically like kind of holding down the chord progression for the track because there is no piano or anything like that. So this is really what's defining that. We're going root 1, 5, 6, 3 basically. And then with the rhythm. And noticing it's the same rhythm as the plucks. So it's all going to work together really well. Now, for this one, it's 3 sounds. We got our sub, which is a sub oscillator, a saw wave, a triangle wave, and then a low pass filter with a very short envelope that's not on that heavily. And then we're side chaining it. You don't want this to jump out too much because it's just sitting in the low end. Then we got our mid bass. Like this very juicy wavetable sound. What's going on here is it's this modern sweep wavetable. Then the position spread unison, you can hear, really makes it just a lot juicier and also gives it some stereo width, which I think is important. And then a low pass filter with an envelope very similar to the sub. We're side chaining that and then we're high passing it. And again, you can hear it just sits on top really nice. And sort of fills that out and adds some stereo width too. Then we got the organ bass. And this one sits really well on top. Honestly, not even because of mixing. Just more so what's going on. You can hear we got the 2 sine waves. One's an octave down and then one's an octave higher plus 7 semitones. I got a bit of pitch envelope on those as well so you get some punch. Amp envelope is really short because it doesn't need to be too full, right? You just want this little organ stab. And then we're side chaining it. And again, it just sits on top, adding that fifth. And filling out the track a little bit. So that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Let me know if you want to see some more trance like this in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can grab this full template on my website. It's something you can do right now to make the best track of your life today. I promise if you grab this, it's a really solid template that'll help push your productions to the next level instantly as soon as you download. Plus, it'll help support me. I don't make a whole lot with like YouTube ads and stuff like that, but with these sample packs, I'm able to keep going and keep bringing you guys new videos like this every single day. Thanks for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.